Recording in progress.
Hello and welcome. Today I have planned to share my coding experience and try to bridge the gap between the learner and the teacher in the world of coding. So my experience has to be shared so that the people who are trying to learn coding and at a, let's say they're a late starter, and the kinds of problems they face in learning coding, I would share those things off and on while I start my episodes, so that that gap that is there in this technical world should be bridged. So please be patient and listen to me. I'm pretty sure that those things, the problems those I have faced, might help you to learn the coding faster. The first thing that comes to our mind is that whenever somebody talks about coding, the app, like Facebook, like social media app, and the Amazon and the Uber that comes to our mind. And this is what the normal picture is about the app. And you start to think from that particular point. So that is the taking off point for a learner, I say. And but then when they go to the real SAP world, they see that many things change in it, and the idea changes, and what they used to think about the app and their connectivity and whatever whatnot. I don't even know what could be in their minds, or what was there in my mind, because when you start to take newer informations, your earlier questions somehow naturally fades away, and although they were not bad, they were good enough, but then they naturally fade away, and then you don't even ask those questions. So we are going to put aside, for the time being, the app that you see in the real world, like the Facebook and the other things I talked about, and the app that the business requirement actually takes care of. Basically, in an app, there is something called as a UI, and there is something called as a backend, and there is something called as a database. So these three things actually sum up to make an app. And basic business scenario, or in a basic app making, there are three things those are involved. So one thing that is called as a front end. So uh, it's called as a front end. I'll talk about these things uh, very calmly, and I won't rush. And I also don't want you to rush on anything, okay? So that I should also be happy making the video, and you should also be happy understanding things. So there is a front end, and there is a thing called as back end, and there is another thing that is called as database. So you see kind of a picture that I'm using for database is like a cylinder that's got data inside it. So maybe I could have even used a square for it, but in so many videos I've seen people using some kind of a container. So that is also true. A container can contain something. So data is in this container, and uh, this is how it is. So there is a front end, there is a back end, and there is a database. So let's touch the ideal part of this thing. What is the idea? The idea is that any company who's operating, and it needs information. All right. So where are you going to store your information? So I say that I'm going to store an information in some files or somewhere. So in the same way, those information is stored in something like this, something like this, you know, the, the blurry part that you see, something like that. And And this something where where your data is called a database. As simple as that. So everything will revolve around the understanding of database then. I'm not saying the technical part, I'm saying it's the functional part, it's the requirement. So I have the data which I used to keep it in the files in some closet. Now I'm keeping that data inside some kind of a technical a container that is called as a database, because the need changed and the technology changed. So we made a transition from our files to when I say files, I'm saying paper files. Okay, from your paper files or records or repertoire, whatever you had, from that place to some technically advanced storage system. And that technically advanced storage system is called as a database. So isn't that very simple? So I have all my information, whatever information you can think of. If it is pertaining to a company, and whatever information that is pertinent to a company is stored in this place that is called as a database. If if your need is to make an app for a house, so all the information that you may think is important to be kept and in some place, so it could be that. Okay, so depends upon what kind of app you're making. So if I say I'm making a business app, I'm making an app for any business house. So the same thing actually runs everywhere. So it doesn't matter, what the system is or who is the end user of the app is. The same requirement is there. So this is what a database is. Now, you might think like, see, I have the data over here. Let's say you have got a file, again, a paper file. Okay. So again, so this is I don't know how to make a picture of a file. So I'll just say that's a file. Okay. Not a computer file, but just a file. So what if I write a file inside a file? So got a file. And I've got lots of them, 1, 200, 2,000, whatever the number is. Okay, I've got a file. And let's say I want to retrieve some data from the file. What will I do? I will try to number it or whatever. You will find ways to access the file, which could become the access easier. You find your own ways. I don't care. The point is that you want to get the information from the file. And what you did is that you have labeled the shelves, you have labeled the files, you have labeled whatever things those are required, technical aspects of arranging the bookkeeping or the file keeping are required in it. So, and then what you did, somehow you got hold of the file by search, of course, by the search. And when you did the search, you got the data. So let's say you're looking for file number 3, and you know that the file number 3 is kept in shelf number 2. So you'll go to shelf number 2 and get the file from shelf number 2 and get the file number 3. So you got the file number 3, and then you started to look into the file. When you started to look into the file, let's say, then you have to go page by page, you flipped over, and then you reach to the exact point, and then whatever information that you wanted, finally you got the information, and then you're happy, right? But then now the technology has changed, so your file is now kept over here in this database, right? So, but then these information that you already had in your brain, or maybe somebody told you that you need to pick the file number 2 from file number 3 from shelf number 2 or whatever, you did some query in your brain. okay? And then you went to that place and did something. So do you think the same kind of so don't you think the same kind of a thing is also required in this technical world of computers where you have the front end and you've got the back end inside, and then you have got all these three things. As I was talking about the retrieval of information from this file, in the same way, you can also have the same retrieval done over here. And so you use your eyes to see the things. Where are you going to see it? So for that, you need something called as a front end. You need something that's called as a front end. So this is my front end. You need something like this, okay, to see your things. But how does this front end know that what you intend to see? So for that, you have to make a front end. You have to make a front end, let's say, and it's got a purpose, right? So let's say I want to see, an information about a student, Okay, so I want uh, what things to be seen. I say I want to see data of a student. What data? I want to see his name. I want to see his roll number. I want to see his address, and so on, right? So for that, you need to actually have a place on your screen, okay? So the screen has to be made where these data can come and sit, right? So you say, okay, fine, I can make a screen. So how will you make the screen? That's kind of something that you have to learn. But then let's say the screen looks something like this, and it's called as an input box. So, now here I'm using a technical name that's called as an input box. Possibly it could be a normal day word, or it could be a technical word. I don't even realize that, but something like a box, you know. And there's a name written over here, and then there is a roll number written over here, and there is the address. So no, just the text. I'm saying like this name, this roll number, and this address. Okay, so, and these fields are empty. Okay, so what you said, when you got into the file, this is what you said to yourself: go to shelf number 2 and look for file number 3, and in that file number 3, go to certain page and look for that data. And it's quite tiresome job because you have to flip over the pages. But over here, it's so easy actually to fetch the data. So let's say a thing that is here is I know the roll number of a person, let's say, already, or let's say I have the ID of the person. I have the ID of a person. Maybe the student has got an ID, and the ID is, let's say, whatever ABCD ID. Let's say the ID is A. So when I have the ID over here, uh, uh, maybe A could be given to many of the people, but then let's say A is unique to that person only for the time being. Okay, so let's say I have this thing. So the screen of my desktop or the mobile only looks like this, where you have got an ID, where you put an A in it, then you have got the name, roll number, and address. So you just wanted to know, I have the ID of the person, just provide me with the name, roll number, and address. So you will say, okay, then I need to design a button over here. Let's say a button. So if I press this button, by writing A on top of it, then the button should bring the name, the roll number, and the address, right? So the point actually I'm trying to make is, don't you see the same thing is actually working? What you did in the manual uh, uh, manual way of fetching the information, the same thing you're actually trying to get it from the data, from the database, right? So isn't it doesn't this give you a picture that this database actually has to be in a position to understand the things that you're looking for, right? So you can say, okay, there is a button, and when you press the button, this message goes to the database, right? Leave this backend. This message directly goes to the database because I'm sitting away, I'm pressing a button. So the button fetches you the data and comes back also, so you ask for something and you got it back, right? So there are a couple of things that you need to understand. How do you actually ask the data from the backend and from the database, and this data where you have got a reservoir of data over here, and how does the data come back to you? But the idea is that an important thing right now? The important thing is, what I see, what's happening in the real world is happening over here also. Only the mechanism has changed. So we will agree to this particular point that only the mechanism has changed and nothing else. Okay. And just an addition that if you think coding is important, and the things like ChatGPT and those kind of things have come that can help you with a lot of coding things. So you just say to ChatGPT, ChatGPT, I want some data from the database. Will provide you the coding. All right. So if you are in a hurry to learn coding a lot and giving a lot of emphasis in learning a language or something like that, take a break. Of course, you can do it parallelly. You can learn a language and you can learn the system. But my preference would be, like first understand the system, and it won't take a lot of time. And even when we do the coding, then also we'll try to see, the functional part of it, the easier part of the coding rather than the complex things in it. Because if you go line by line and then try to understand the code, then probably you will get stuck badly, and you might lose interest. That's the point I'm trying to make. So you don't have to lose your interest. Okay, coming back to our thing is that. So what you did is that there is the button. So this is my button. So let's actually make a button. Makes things easier. And let's make it smaller. Okay. So this is the button that you see on your screen as a normal screen of computer. Okay. So some kind of a small box-like thing where it says press. So it's just writing button. I can say press me, get information. Press me. Okay. So the moment you press over there, all of a sudden you see data comes over here. Okay. So you see the data has come over here. And the data is the name, that is Danish. That's my name, actually. The roll number is, let's say, 2232. And the address is Rachi. Okay. So you see the data's come and you're comfortable. So what exactly happened over here? By the press of the button, that means the button knows that the user has put something called as A in the ID over here, ID field over here. and I need to go to this particular point and very quickly check for A and associated data with A. Okay, so it checks on the A thing and says, okay, I got the information, and it says take it, and the data comes back over here. As simple as that. Okay, so you when you pressed it, you did a function, you did some action over here, and the action brought you the result. Now let's talk about the connectivity. So you know what? This you have seen the normal computer where you have a hard disk, okay? And that hard disk stores data inside it, right? And that hard disk in your computer alters data. Just take that hard disk, you know, I'm saying physically, take that hard disk and place it, let's say, to your friends, and keep it into your friend's house, all right? Now, there's a problem. Inside the computer, if you go to the search bar over here, then you can search for anything that you're looking for. Okay, here also you're searching by putting the press me, you search. Here in the search bar, you search and you get the data that is there in the computer. Okay, but now the problem is what you did is that you took this thing that's got data and that data that I was talking about that was local to your computer, okay, your laptop or your device, whatever you're using. What you did is that you place that thing to your friend's house who lives next door, or maybe a couple of kilometers away from your house. Okay, now the thing is not local; it's between two systems now. Okay, so in order to actually make a contact to a thing that is placed somewhere outside your boundary, and you want to access that data, for that there must be certain ways through which you can access the data. Now you see, when you look for a search, what if you do a search? What do? You type things like www.certainthings.com, and then this is what you basically do. So, if the moment I use www.com or something, and you think, see, the technical thing is now really, it's really coming. Okay, fine, let it come then. What's the problem? But don't care about it. Be clear with the idea, okay? Let's say certain special words or letters, those are used, okay, to make an access to this thing, although I do not understand those special words or letters or characters, but I know that if I use those special words or characters, it can do the job. Okay, so the special words HTTP sort of thing, something like this is written, and then you say www dot my friend FRIEND, my friend's house, my friend house.com. Okay, so something like this. So, so does it look intimidating? If it does, don't care about it. Written, but there is something that's written. So let's try to make it a bit more complex. We can still make it more complex. So, okay, for now, let's keep it this way only. So this is the thing that's written over here, HTTP, and I'm fearful of this thing. Fine, you should be fearful, but then let's go ahead. And there's a colon, the two slashes, and things are written over there, and that's intimidating. I know that. Then just see the purpose of it. So there is a way that somebody somewhere has decided that if you really want to fetch the data, you need to actually type something like this, even if you don't type HTTP all the time. So you must be thinking, we normally type anything, like any address on the search bar, and you reach to that platform. Okay, like for example, you type Facebook. Okay, and you reach to the Facebook. Do you type HTTP or www, something like that? Even if you don't do that, this thing is actually running behind the scenes. Okay, HTTP and those kind of things, right? So the access is because people, the makers know that the end user won't be able to do this. So when you place a request like let's say press me, or when you sit on the YouTube, let's go first over there and check out what really happens when you do those things. So for that, I need to remove this thing, and I also need to delete the drawing, and then it's okay, fine. So let's come back over here and let's check it out. Delete it, and let's say I'll try Facebook, and let's see what happens. So you see, this is what has happened. Did you type this thing? HTTPS www.google.com and those kind of things, and then a lot of things are written over here. That's very dangerous. I know that. So, but did you type it? This is what I'm asking. The point is, you didn't type it, and oh, so big. But still, that thing was there. You saw that. I reached to the end of it. I'm just starting with it. Okay, yeah. You see, you got this HTTPS and Google.com, and you just type face over here, and then it brought you to this particular thing. That means something on its own got appended to it, got added to it, so that it should take you to the right path, because you don't know the technical. If you were to type these big things just to reach to Facebook, one would never reach it actually, or might bookmark things and maybe reusing it. But the search would become, how many bookmarks will you make? Those more, I suppose, and it's impossible to actually keep them in one place. So many bookmarks, that's impossible, right? So they have devised a plan to actually deal with this kind of a situation where end user is not accustomed to these kind of things, right? So coming back to our thing that we're discussing is that you see this particular HTTP is there, and this HTTP, uh, which is intimidating again, and you just need to memorize it. Okay, so what I say is that when you do a press me, the press me actually it makes a call and reaches to this point, because it says my friend's house.com I'm talking about, but my friend's house has got so many rooms, and my friend's house has got a particular shelf. In that particular shelf I've got the data in a file 2 or 3. So then you need to make the address bigger and bigger. Okay, so what we will do over here is that and room number 2, second shelf, and then uh, file number 3, file number 3. So this is how you reach to the exact point where the data was stored, right? So, and then finally it picks the data, and then there must be a method that I should send you back. So the same thing actually sends the data back. So picks the data, and with the same HTTP request, it sends the data back to you, and with a response, it's called a response, and the response gives you the data. So the response gives the data back to you. So the data comes back over here, and then things like this, and this got populated. Now you're happy because you have the data. It's just, three in the field. Now I want information of all the students, all the students that I have in my school. So for that, you need a table then. So then you have to make a table, all right? And you will draw a table or you will make a table through coding, whatever. But the point is that you have to make a table, and the table, let's say I make another button over here, another button over here. So this says that by the press of the button, go to the same place, and fetch all the data and put that in my table. All right. So it will go over here and picks up the data from the relevant file and from the relevant portion, from the relevant component of the database, and gives the data back to you. It's as simple as that. How is that tough then? But this thing over here, this database I'm talking about, you see, it is understanding everything. Okay, it understood this particular thing. So can I change the color? I'll change the color of it. Black is good. Okay, so I was talking about this particular thing is understanding it. That means it has to be made in such a way that it can respond to things like these. So if I say a database is something that stores data in a tabular form, in tables, in rows and columns, so many of them, but these rows and columns can respond. So let's say I wanted data from this row. So this row gets attached to the response and comes back over here. That means these are not the normal rows and columns. Okay, these are special rows and columns that responds says to a query that's made. So these are queries. We say like questions means query is actually a question in the real world. Okay, so a question is given to it. Okay, query is given to it. A question is given to it, and it gives the answer. The answer could be, I don't know what you're asking, or the answer is, okay, take the data and put it over here, right? And there is a way to make a query. There is a way to, there's a way. You see www and those kind of things, and there's a way to make a query. And so it understands the query and just takes one part from it. So if I say I want data from this part only, I want data from this part only, this row, okay? So it should be able to understand that the person is asking for one record, okay? And that one record has to be sent. It should have the ability to understand, like it's asking for all the records. Let's say I have got a set of 10,000 students, or maybe a set of 1 lakh students, because the school's been running for, let's say, 20 years, and I've got a record of all the students those have passed from my school. And then, anytime I can fetch any data for any alumni or anybody, okay, or the students who are studying right now. So it should be good enough to get the data from me. Okay, so it should understand the query. So a database has the ability to respond to a query. Or maybe a database should also have the ability to combine. I've got one set of table, I've got another set of table, and I can join the two sets of table if they're related to each other. Okay. Or I want, I want, let's say it has got fields in it, and I want name. There's a name, there's an ID, there's an address, and this it has got the information about the students, each students what they have done in their career, in future. I'm going to say what they have done in their career. So you have got the list of things that they have done, what job they are employed to, and what are you doing right now? Okay, so each student, let's say student one, you have got student two, and in this I've got things about what student one has done, and student one is now an IAS officer. Okay, an IAS officer, and he's placed in Delhi. Okay, and the student two is a, let's say, a banker, and he's in Hyderabad. So you see, so let's say I want certain information from one, and also associated informations about one. I want information from two with the associated information of two. You see, so the point I'm trying to make is that even it's a set of rows and columns, but these rows and columns are so dynamic. These rows and columns are so technically connected to each other, or you can connect them technically, so that whenever and whatever you want from this, in whatever combination you want the data to be presented, you can use a query, okay, question, so that it can respond to your question and give you the answer. Okay, so this is how things are working. Isn't that interesting and so easy to understand, right? But then, so there's a front end. So, there is a developer who is a front end developer. So you can call as a D1. That one person is a front end developer. And there's another person who is a back end developer, right? So uh, let's call him as a, let's call his developer two. Okay, he's a backend developer. Okay, although I did not talk anything about the backend, but then for for a while, let's take a break. Okay, so there's nothing pre-planned. I can go to anywhere anytime. Okay, but the thing is that I will not miss anything, or at least try to not miss anything. Okay, so there's a developer, so you can be employed in a company as a front-end developer or as a back-end developer, or you can be employed in a company as a full stack. Somebody who knows this, who knows this, and also this. Okay. So if they know everything about front and back end, uh, and the database, they're called as full stack developer. So it depends upon the profile you're working in. But irrespective of the profile you're working in, you should be having, even if you're a front end developer, you should be having the understanding of the full gamut of the things that you are actually supposed to you're working in. Because if you don't have the understanding and you want to keep yourself sidelined by by saying that I'm a front end developer, I just need to connect it to the back end, that's it, then your future progress will be greatly hampered, because these things are so easy to understand. So why do you want to just keep yourself so narrowed down and don't want to understand bigger aspect of it? So once you understand the bigger aspect of it, anytime you can switch to the backend coding, or also the database coding. Uh, so see, it's easy, right? So which is why I wanted to give you a bigger picture of everything. So as I was talking about the data retrieval, so when I say that you're a front-end developer, that means who is actually designing a screen. So let's say, let me delete things first. Clear all drawing, and then I need to go from here like this, okay, and what I need, what do I need? Okay, a new slide. Control A, come over here, Control A, and it's not working. Delete everything. Okay, now I was talking about the front-end developer first. Okay, so this is this. The front-end developer. So he's the one, the front-end developer is the one actually actually designs the screen. Is it one? So do you think he designs the screen on his own? No. The specifications are given to him. That, let's say, he's supposed to make a form. So somebody from his team who has the functional knowledge of how the screen look like. So he will say that you make a screen where you will have a button, where you have where you have fields in it, like look like something like this. Say it's got fields over here. Here's going to put in informations, okay? And there's a button. So let's make a button over here, and there should be a button. So, you know, he got these these things from these specifications from the team lead, a functional consultant, and then after getting the specifications, what he does, he designs something like this, where he placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 input fields and one button, the text written on it, press me. Okay, this is my button, and uh, and uh, and there's a name field, so should have actually made it like that. Let me do it. Control C and Control V and place it red so that it's you understand. And there's one more over here. I'm not putting it. So it should be the main thing, that the ID. Once you press the ID, you've got a name. You've got a name, then you have got the roll number, then you have got the address, and then you have got hobbies, and then and one thing, and just leave it. And this one, okay? This is how the screen will look. So you see, so this is the job of a front-end developer, to actually design a screen which looks something like this, and and then you put a press over here, and the press actually reads the ID, and that could be put away. Let's say the ID is 123. If this 123 is put over here, you know, it will bring in the relevant data, as I was talking about in this one. Press me and you get the data. So basically, the basic point I'm trying to make is that, you know, there's a front-end developer who designs a screen. So and it's such an easy task to actually do that, because if you understand, you know, how to design the screen, and and how to actually uh, make use of the handlers in the function. So let's come back to this thing. Okay, use this press me, so that press me should understand this particular thing and go to the backend and go to the database and get the data. Okay, so this is how it is. But let's come back to this particular point where it says that there's a front end, so the screen has been designed. Then this press me knows that I have to actually make a request as a GP to a particular place, and then I have to get the data. So there is a way to deal with it. And then, so what is the use of the backend? In the next video, we will talk more about the backend and the front end connectivity and then the database. All right. Thanks for watching the video.